Alright guys, welcome back to another video, and in this video I'm going to be showing you some more items kindly sent to me for the purposes of review from our friends over at Banggood, and I've got some fairly interesting items to show you today. So without further ado, let's crack on with the video and show you what I've got. Alright then guys, so the first item in question is an impact driver, and it's manufactured by a company called Top Shack. Now it comes in a box, in a case. Inside the box itself you've got some documents saying which other items they sell. You get a 12-month warranty. Now I'm not sure how the warranty actually works, being that they're based abroad. It does say on here, now have a full 12 months warranty if ordered via Banggood, and it gives you a link and ways to contact them. It does say if you've ordered this through AliExpress or another retailer, please contact them directly for warranty claims. Like I say, I don't know how the warranty will actually work. And you also get your pretty standard instruction manual, and you get another bit of paper just explaining some of the functions for the impact driver itself. So we'll open the box. Now it is fairly standard, cheap plastic case, but if you're the sort of person that likes to keep their items in a case, dust free, then it's going to be good enough for that. In the box you get a few driver pieces. Now it does come with a European charger, but Banggood did actually send me a adapter so I could actually charge the battery up. But if you haven't got a European adapter, they're cheap and cheerful and you can pick them up from almost anywhere. Good news for me is it came with a full charge, and I've actually had this in the workshop for quite a while before Christmas, and the battery is still reading fully charged, which is quite impressive. Feels quite weighty in the hand. It doesn't feel cheap and chintzy. I know a lot of people say Banggood is just cheap rubbish, but I've got some cheap tools which I've had for like 15-20 years, and even today they're still operational and working fine. So they might not be the best, but cheap doesn't always mean they're rubbish. But we could take a look at this up closer and talk about some of the features. Alright then, so start off with the battery. I'll just take that off. It's a 20 volt, 2 amp hour battery. It's got a battery indicator on the front. It's got 5 lights on it, so obviously the more lights, the more charge it's got. Fairly light this one because it is only a 2 amp hour, so it's fairly small. I'll just put that back on, that just slides back on. So when you pull the trigger, it's got a light down the bottom. So if you're in a dark area, tucked away in a cupboard or something like that, you're going to have plenty of illumination so you can see what you're doing. Now it has got places both sides to put a belt clip, but it doesn't actually come with one. Now this is a brushless model, so no carbon brushes in this one, which is meant to give you more power, more durable, last longer and less wear and tear. So it's pretty standard really for drills and impact drivers. You've got your directional thing, but if it's in the middle, it locks the trigger off. Push it through one way and it goes like clockwise, and then go the other way for anti-clockwise. And once again, if we put it in the middle, it locks the trigger. Your standard a chuck, pull it up to release it or insert a driver bit. Top part is really small and it feels quite substantial in the hand, feels well balanced. Like I've said, it doesn't feel cheap and chintzy. I actually really like it. Feels nice. So the only other thing on the tool is you've got this controls down here, and I'll run through that in a bit more detail. So got the left button is up and down arrows, and that's just to select it from 1 through to 4. Now each of the 4 modes has a different use. So number 1 is for driving screws in or out of wood. Then number 2 is for fixed steel up to about 3 millimeters. Number 3 is for thinner steel around about a millimeter. And then number 4 is self-stop. Now each one of these modes operates at a different speed, obviously because you're driving in screws into different materials. But from modes 1 through to 3, if you press A1, you'll notice if I operate it, put it in number 1, now that will operate at a set speed. If I press the A1 button, that also lights up and it increases the torque. Now if I go to mode 2 and leave this one on, it increases the torque. Same again with mode 3. If I leave this one on, it increases the torque. And then when you go to number 4, what this does is basically, if you're driving in screws, it will stop you from over driving them or like risking stripping the heads or whatever. And when you're taking it out, as soon as the screw is out far enough, it cuts out, so you don't kind of bring the screw right out and drop the screw. And that's what they mean by self-stop. And that is basically all there is to this drill. So I've got no steel, but I am going to try and drive a few screws into some wood and see how we get on. So to get this in, you just pull this forward and that locks it in. So I'm going to try, so put it on setting 1, as yours on the right setting. I'm going to take this one off and we're going to see whether this will actually have the power to drive this one in. Get it started off first. Oh, try not to wreck the place. Right, let's see how we get on. Well, it was slow, but it tackled it. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try the same thing again, but this time I'm going to put it, which increases the torque. So let's try that again. Let's try and start it off first. Oh. Right, let's see how this does. Oh. That's actually quite impressive. If I'm honest, I didn't think it'd do that. Yeah, so overall, I've got to say, it's quite impressed me. If I'm honest, I thought that was going to struggle with the long lag bolt, but it actually got it in no problem at all, especially when you press the AI button and increase the torque. It was like a hot knife through butter. So it surpassed my expectations, and overall, I'm quite impressed by it. Now, obviously, I don't know how reliable it's going to be. I'm just going to be using it over time on different projects and things. I guess we'll find out. Now, I have asked about spare batteries for this, and I'm still waiting for a reply. But if they get back to me with any information, I will include that in the video description. So let's get on with the next item, shall we? All right then, so the next item in question is a thin strip jig from Banggood. Now, this is from a company called Fonts and Tools. It's all anodized aluminium or aluminum. Very well made, very well machined. Now at the moment it's got these bits on the back, so it can be used on a standard 19mm mitre slot. But if you've got the smaller slots, it comes with these. So you just replace these, put these through, and then these will go in the slot. So this isn't a standard 19mm mitre slot, and these ones will slide into this. So the tool can actually be used with varied slots. Right, so it's really simple to use. Insert it in your mitre slot. Don't tighten these up because you want this to slide backwards and forwards. This bit, bearing obviously goes towards the blade. This goes in the middle there. You've got a hole through the centre. Then you get this brass knob with a small washer, so be careful not to lose the washer. And then just insert that in the hole. And that's going to lock this piece in place. Then what you want to do is slide this out until it touches, just kisses the blade. Move it down so one of the bearings actually kisses the tooth on the blade. You might have to play around a little bit to line it up. Like that. So that is zero clearance. Then these marks are done in millimeters. So just say you want a 5mm strip, you would move this back 5mm, lock it in place. Then you can move this back before the blade and lock this in place. And then what you've got to do is you get your wood and you butt your wood up to the bearings, and then you slide your fence tight against your piece of wood. Then what you do is obviously make your first cut. Then after that, you put your wood back in, up against the bearing, so it's touching. Then you'd slide your fence over again until it's trapped between that and your fence. Then you'd put the wood through, make your cut, and then once again you'd put your wood back in, touch it on the bearing, slide your fence across until it's between the two, make your cut, slide it through, make your cut, and you'd keep doing that, putting the wood back in up against the bearing and then adjusting your fence until you can't actually make any more cuts, and that will give you perfect, accurate cuts that are identical every time. So it's really simple. Unfortunately, I can't actually show you because my saw is in my living room at the moment. You'll find out why it's in my living room in an upcoming video. It's really simple to use, really well made. I think that's going to come in handy if I ever need to do some thin strips. So yeah, so that's item 2. Got to say, quite pleased with that one, and I'm looking forward to being able to use that one in the future. So on to the 3rd item, and that's going to be, it's not the original gripper, this is a cheaper version. Now, I can't say whether it's identical to the gripper itself because I've never actually seen nor used the actual gripper. All I know is it's very, very similar. It could be identical, but this is a hell of a lot cheaper. It's made by Wnew, W-N-E-W, and we're going to take a closer look at it and see what we think of it. So let's dive in a bit closer. Alright, so like I said, it's made by Wnew, or New, however it's pronounced. And I know it's very close, it's even like the colours are the same. I'm pretty sure the gripper has the same colours. So you've got the side support, which you can move up and down. You've got this central support, which basically loosen the knobs front and back, and that will slide either way, so you can slide it over or you can slide it the other way. And you want your blade to be running through either gap. And on the back you've also got this little extra tail, and I'll show you what that's for anyone that doesn't know how to use one of these. So just say I want to trim down a really narrow piece of stock. Obviously I can put this support on the wood, but I can't slide this one over all the way that way, because if I have it too close, I mean, it's still not, because the wood's so narrow, it's still not supporting that bit anyway, but you've got a risk of this being chopped by the blade. So this bit is absolutely useless, so I just take that bit out of the way and lock that so it doesn't move. So they always reckon don't use it at an angle like that. What you've got to do is loosen these bits off, allow that to slide down, because you want to keep this as close to 90 as you can. So do this up, and that will support this side of it. Now these are quite grippy, so you might get away without using the bit at the back. I'm going to spin the camera around and show you the back side. So for the purposes of the video, rather than move the camera to the other side of the saw, I'm going to use the opposite side of the fence and just pretend the blade is this side. So because these green bits are quite clingy anyway, you can see that I can slide it and it grips the wood. But this little tail bit here, we loosen that off and you can move this up and down. What they recommend in the instructions is to use that and drop that down so it sits behind the piece of wood, and then do that up, and that will actually push the bit of wood as well. Now it says in the instructions to actually cut through this bit. I'm not sure whether you'd want to do that. I wouldn't want to do that, because to me there's no point. I would rather take this bit off, because if you take this all the way out you can slide this off and you can make some hardwood tails. Just make a load of them in one go, and then you can basically use those, and if you need to make narrow strips like this, you can just run it through and cut a slot in this, and when it's too roughed up you can just put a new one on. I wouldn't recommend actually cutting the original one, but that is what that's for, to go behind slim bits of wood and it pushes it. So for wider pieces, just cutting this bit down, I can now afford to use this one and the middle support. So if I loosen these ones off, I should be able to move that over enough and lock it in there. And now I can actually have two supports on this piece of wood, and I've still got plenty of room for the blade to go between them. So you're not actually going to cut the jig. Yes, I mean, this way takes more time to make each cut because you've got to make sure that the jig itself is clear of the blade, and the blade is actually going to run through the gaps and not actually cut the jig. But it still keeps your hand away from the blade. Not sure if I'd actually prefer this one or the traditional ones that are like higher, longer handles. And obviously you'd also drop this down so you can keep this handle like at 90 degrees, and then that allows you to run that through safely. So if you've got a much larger piece of material, then I can afford to give myself a bit more clearance with the central support piece by sliding that across further. Just move this fence slightly further away. So I can move this across this way, and that will allow me to loosen this off a minute. Leave plenty of room for the blade to run through the gap. You've got support on the wood, this side, there, this edge, and also this bit. Just make sure you do all the knobs back up so it keeps everything in place and nothing's going to kind of move or slide as you make the cut. And then you can just run that through. So that is the third item. That's about all I can say about that. Overall, seems to be really well made. It's definitely really sturdy plastic. I mean, there's no flex in this plastic anywhere that I can feel. Seems to be really well made. As long as you're careful with lining up the blade in the gaps, I can't see it being a problem. This is super grippy, holds the wood really firmly, which is what you want. The only thing I would not do that it states in the instructions is cut through this little finger at the back. If I just let you have a closer look at this, you'll see that this is just a bit of plastic with the knob and bolt on the back that fits in the slot. So you could easily take this bit off and just make yourself some hardwood fingers. You make a load of them up, keep with the gripper, just cut through them as many times as you want if you're cutting finished stock, and you just replace them. And then you just keep the original in one piece. But other than that, I think it's quite nice. It's a hell of a lot cheaper than the gripper, but seems to do exactly the same thing. So if you're on a budget and you're after getting your hands on one of these, then it might be worth having a look, seeing what you think. So the fourth and final item that I've got to show you guys today are these. And they're accessories for router table. It says you can use it on your bandsaw or you can use it on your table saw, depending on whether you've got slots in your fences and things and mitre slots. So we'll dive in close, show you the items, and then show you them, well, not in use because I can't use my saw in here, but show you how they work. So here's the final item I've got to show you. And these are really nicely machined, made of the anodized aluminum. Everything is metal, even the twisty knobs are metal. The only parts that aren't metal, the actual rubbers on the wheel itself. Now these are, for anyone that might not know what these are for, these obviously, this is fitted for a standard mitre slot, so you can go on the fence or the slot on the table saw surface. It does come with these smaller ones. So if you've got a smaller slot, like I showed you earlier on my table saw fence, these will actually fit on that as well. And the idea being that you'll have this, just say on the fence, and then you can angle it down until this wheel is on your workpiece, and then as you feed the workpiece through, it just keeps it downward pressure and stops it from kind of moving around. Now the good thing about these is it's designed to not only keep the piece of wood that you're running through stable, but it also keeps it on the table, prevents you from lifting it up, and if you look, you'll see that the actual wheel itself is angled inwards, and that's so it actually pulls it in towards the fence to keep the workpiece tight against the fence as you run it through. That's a really good feature. And another important safety aspect with these is these wheels only turn one way, so I can feed the wood through that way, but it won't turn the other way. It doesn't turn anti-clockwise, so it prevents kickback, because it will allow you to push the wood through the saw, but it won't allow it to kick back. So it's actually a good safety feature. Everything is metal, like I've already said. Really, really nicely machined. I mean, the quality of these items are superb in my opinion. What's this company name? This is by Jig Hole. Never heard of them, but again, really, really cheap, but lovely quality. Right, so just for a quick demonstration, obviously I've taken these bits off because the slot on this fence is a lot narrower, and I've used two of these to fit it to my table saw fence. And what you basically do, got to make sure you have it the right way round, so the wheel will actually allow you to spin the workpiece through rather than backwards, where it won't actually slide. But once you've done that, I mean, this one, as far as I can see, can be positioned further back if you want to keep it as it goes through the blade, whereas this one, I wouldn't have thought you'd want to put that next to the blade, because you don't want to be applying pressure towards the blade to cause this to kind of pinch against the blade, because that could be disastrous. Even though these are designed not to turn backwards, there's no saying that that wouldn't still cause a major accident if you pinch the workpiece against the blade. So I would prefer to have this bit just before the blade, and this one, because it goes underneath that, I don't think that'd be a problem if you have it next to the blade. I could be wrong, but that's the way I'm seeing it. If it's wrong, then do let me know in the comments. If you have got it like next to the blade, at least this wheel will keep it positioned as tight to the fence as possible as you feed the workpiece through. So obviously these will go up and down. Now obviously my fence is quite low, so it's not actually sitting flat at the moment in order to demonstrate this. If you've got a higher fence, it would work much better, because obviously my fence won't go down. But just for the purposes of this video, I'm just going to pretend this fence is fitted properly. Then you would lower this down to the workpiece and do the knobs up so it's in position. Same with this one. Move it up to its touching the wood and then lock it down in place. And then what that will allow you to do is feed the workpiece through. So this one will stop it from moving that way, whereas this one will stop it lifting off the table, prevent it from being kicked back. And because this wheel, rather than being parallel with a fence, it's angled inwards, it keeps this bit of wood against the fence as you feed it through the blade. So I'm sorry I can't actually make a cut and show you what I'm talking about, but I'm hoping I've explained it clear enough that you can understand. So these are going to come in very useful. I'm actually planning on building a router table in the near future, and that was the reason that I went for these, because I'm going to fit these to the router table. Who knows, I might get something similar to go on the table saw eventually. Yeah, overall I really like these. Well, there you go then, guys. That is the 4 items that I had to show you. Overall, I'm really happy with the items. They're cheap, but the aluminium or aluminum ones that I've shown you are really well machined. They're really nice bits of equipment. Are they the same as like the woodpeckers that you see a lot of the Americans using? Probably not, but I would say they're really, really good, well made, and if you're budget orientated like I am and you're on a tight budget and can't afford the high end stuff, then these just might be a valid option for you. Overall, I'm happy with them and I should get some good use out of them moving forward. So Banggood are actually doing a summer sale at the moment. I'm going to include links to their sales in this video description, so be sure to head over there and check that out. It's running from the 9th of June, so we have missed a little bit of it, but it runs until the 19th of June, and they've got some quite considerable savings on a lot of their items, so well worth taking a look at what they've got on offer. I've also managed to secure an individual discount code for each of the items that I've shown in today's video. So be sure to check those out in the video description as well, and you can save a few extra pence. So that's going to do it for this video, guys. As always, I want to thank you for watching. If it's your first time here, then be sure to hit that subscribe button, tap the bell icon, and you'll never miss a future video. I do woodworking or wood butchering, depends how you want to look at it, and tool reviews, equipment reviews, etc. So if that's your sort of thing, then why not subscribe? It's free after all. So that's it from me. Until the next video, stay safe, guys, and you will see me in the next video. Cheers for watching, guys.